Hi. Okay. Let's get into it. This is by request, so I've had a lot of activities the last few days, so but we'll dive right into this stuff. This is some pickup stuff, okay? So the question was, kind of how do you approach somebody and pick up somebody? I say pick up, I mean get them on an actual date with you when you have high attraction to them. You know what I mean? Like something about them feels perfect to you. You're highly aroused by this individual. Maybe she's a 10, okay? And everybody is, right? Or maybe there's just something about her that really gets you, and it makes you a little bit nervous, maybe not wanting to, can I talk to her, right? What if I screw it up? It gives you a little bit of approach anxiety, so to speak. All right. So we'll dive into that. First of all, let's look at arousal, okay? So these are genetic qualities. You don't know this person, okay? So they could be really a pile of trash with in a good body and a face. You know what I mean? Definitely had that happen numerous times. Happens a lot, actually, where you find out this person's pretty much a piece of shit. All right, so that could be a thing, okay? And so them being attractive, doesn't mean anything. But let's look at it where it comes from. You got the universal attractiveness, okay? So somebody's SMV, sexual market value, is an 8 or a 9 or a 10. Universally, all dudes are going to see you that way. I mean, personal preferences may play a role, but you're only going to be within 1 point, usually higher or lower in opinions. If a girl's sexual market value, in terms of her attractiveness, okay, is an 8, some guys might only see her as like a high 7. Some guys might see her as a 9. But for the most part, right, you're right in that same thing. We all kind of know this for universal attractiveness, body types, and just things that we universally find attractive. Facial symmetry, skin, unblemished skin, hip to waist ratio, that sort of thing, right? Things that signal, we're talking about females now, things that signal fertility, okay? These are universal. But then there's personal preferences too. And so those personal preferences come from your bucket of experiences, all right? Things you've had success with before. But a lot of times those ingrained, they can be ingrained as a child, but sometimes these things could also come from genetic viability. and so that means that if you mate with this person, a person with these characteristics, you're going to make a genetically superior and more survivable baby with this person versus another person. So you take two females who are, let's say, pretty hot, 2 9s, but you're really attracted and aroused by this person versus this person. It's a possibility that could be coming from just your genetic mix potentially responding well to hers, from an attractiveness level, all right? Either way, you're highly aroused by this person. So now this makes you a little nervous, okay? But understand this. She is also aroused by potentially you and potentially guys in the same manner, in the same way. So just women are, I don't want to say they're better at handling it, but they handle their arousal and attraction a little bit differently, than you do, because they don't have to approach. Their mating strategy is different. They are putting out all the what females are doing is saying, look at me, and they're doing things to get attention, whether they admit it or not. And then the guys, a series of guys in their social circle will give them attention, and then she selects from that pool of guys her best options. That's what she is doing. It's a different strategy versus most men who are more like snipers, right? They're approaching targets and targets of opportunity, all right, individually, one at a time. They're not just sitting there going, look at me, you know. So that's not generally how it works from biological mating perspective. So but you have to understand this, all right? So she's trying to attract attention, either whether she admits it, not, whatever. Okay, if she's really hot, like a 10 or a 9, she's getting attention all the time. So you have to understand that attention is kind of worthless to her because it happens to her a lot. And it may even be to a level where it's annoying, where she can't even go anyplace without guys of lower sexual market value paying attention to her, which then, of course, that always frustrates a woman when it's a guy of lower sexual market value. You know, how dare you, right? Anyway, but you got to understand this, you know, some things you have to digest and really internalize before you approach a female that is a 10 for you, okay, or a 9 or whatever, but high SMV and you're very aroused by her. You got to understand, first of all, that looks, okay, her looks and her appearance and the things that make her attractive from an appearance perspective are fucking worthless. All right, so you have to understand that that's worthless in a sense. It's unearned, okay? So she hasn't earned that stuff generally, unless she spends a lot of time at the gym, then maybe some of it's earned. But generally speaking, it's not earned like internal characteristics. You see what I mean? And hotter women have been getting attention all the time since they were younger. So until they hit that epiphany stage when they start to age in their late 20s, early 30s, they generally don't start doing things to improve themselves. I'm sorry, ladies, but this is just the case, okay? The really hot women, when they're younger, are having so much attention and unearned praise and unearned attention thrown at them, which is actually can be very damaging in a lot of ways to a female, to these younger hot women, because they think they're awesome and they're really not. They're really immature emotionally, mentally. They don't have a lot that they've had to earn, right? Because they're just getting all the praises and attention. They think they're awesome and great. Well, they're only being seen as being great because they got a nice pair of tits, ass, good hip to waist, nice skin. You know, they're hot, right? They're genetically hot, and maybe they spend, I don't know, 3 or 4 days a week at the gym and they eat right. Let's say they do that. Okay, big fucking deal. That's like par for the course for a dude, right? If a younger guy, he doesn't have all the vaginas being thrown at him. Even if he is a top 10%er, that's not how it works with the guys. So guys have to be attractive, have to bring more to the table than their looks. So they have to work on shit. All right. So let's say by the time a guy is 30 years old, even an attractive guy, he has been working on himself so that he could have a good potential, high sexual market value mate. All right. And a female who's a 10 in attractiveness, chances are, and I'm not saying every female, okay, but chances are she hasn't been working on shit. All right. Because she's getting things just sort of thrown at her and taken care of for her. And there's a lot of confusion with that. You know what I mean? Because she's not getting what she wants a lot of times too. You know what I mean? And so she doesn't have that epiphany that, I need to actually be a good person. I need to work on myself. I need to be more mature. I need to be more goal-oriented. I need to be more emotionally stable. I need to be less of a piece of shit and more of a good person to other people. I need to be less selfish and, more of somebody who cares and has empathy for others. Stuff like that for like a lot of women who are 9s or 10s, that doesn't kick in till later on. You know what I mean? And so they're behind on working on that stuff. All right, because of their looks. The looks can be a hindrance in some of these ways. All right, so you got to understand that looks that don't matter. So you're looking at her and she's hot and you're really attracted, but it doesn't fucking matter. She could be a great person. She could be awesome. Statistically speaking, and chances are she's probably not that good of a person. She probably has a million flaws that you don't see because of the presentation. All right, so she's not that great. So you have to get out of your head and stop putting this fantasy on her that she's this awesome person because she's hot. She's probably a lot of hot garbage, all right? Chances are. just statistically speaking, I mean, that's just the numbers, from a numbers perspective, that's probably what it is, okay? Doesn't mean she's, you know, a terrible person or anything or whatever. We all have our own struggles. We all got to work on things. But chances are she's not all of this great stuff that you think that she is because she has a nice ass. You know what I'm saying? So you have to debunk that fantasy in your head immediately. You see a girl that walks in and she's very attractive and really gets you, great. That's just one check in the block. She could be a terrible person. And wow, what if she is a terrible person and she's able to hide how big of a piece of shit she is for a long time, and she sucks you in and you're really attracted to her, and then all of the terrible stuff that she is comes out later. Wow, then now you're fucked, right? You know, now you're having a terrible breakup, you're having a bad relationship. And there's a lot of ways this can go, man. I'm just saying, okay? So you can't put your fantasy onto her. That's kind of the first rule. Her looks are meaningless, okay? It's just one factor, that's it. And you can't put the fantasy of who she is on her based on those looks. Your attractiveness to her is simple genetics, and that's it. Okay, so, all right, had to let that go. You have that stuff in mind. Now let's look at the fact, you have to look at it like this. She has to see you as better than she is, all right? It sounds really weird and narcissistic, and I'm not saying you think in terms of I'm better than her or anything like that. It's not how you think. But she has to, for hypergamy to work, for her to feel, because women love and make mating decisions pragmatically, okay, more so than idealistically. So when she looks at a guy she sees as high sexual market value, she's attracted and drawn to him because she thinks he's a little bit better than she is. All right, he's got something going on for him that she doesn't have, and that's how she actually has to think that in order for her to be a little bit crazy about you. All right, if she thinks that she's way better than you are, she's not going to be attracted to you. She's not going to want you. All right, so you have to understand that. You have to kind of have this mindset that you're better, all right? In a sense that you have things that she doesn't have. You have things that she would value. She may not even see those things on the surface. You got something that she wants. You should have that in your mind, all right? Because if you're a guy who is working on himself, listening to my videos, and becoming a better man, right, then you'll have a number of things that she wants and that she would find valuable. Okay, and so with that, that's a reason that you're of value. And some of those things that you have, it's because you just have some better things going on for you than she does. All right, so you have that in mind because it's probably true. All right, particularly if she is 10 years late on working on her own shit. All right, let's assume, or she hasn't even started. Okay, and you've been working on you and your shit for a long time, right? You probably objectively have a lot going for you that's a lot better than what she has going for her. All right, so I'm not saying don't look at her as a good person or whatever, but just have a neutral mindset when you go into it. You don't know who she is just because she's hot. That doesn't fucking matter. All right, it really doesn't. Okay. Now, another thing that you have to keep in mind is that general attention is worthless. Pretty girls get dicks thrown at them all day long. Okay. So your generalized attention is garbage to her. If anything, it's probably, it brings you down a level, because if you're giving her generalized attention, you know, you're basically demonstrating that she is better than you are. Okay. Now, generalized attention is things like staring up and down, look at her, you know, saying, not just kind of like giving her this attention, letting her know she's attractive, but not personalizing any of it. Okay, like a lot of guys will do that. A hot girl walks in, they'll be like, damn, or whatever. They'll look at her, look up and down, and they're trying to get her to respond without putting their ass on the line in terms of rejection. Do you know what I mean? They're just letting her know that he's interested. Well, guess what? Everyone's interested in the pretty girl, so that doesn't fucking matter. It's garbage. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's worthless to her. And as soon as you do that, you bring yourself down in value too. So you lessen the chances of you getting anywhere with her by subjugating yourself to her. All right. So just keep that in mind too. That's another thing. Now, personal attention, however, and connection, which is what we're going to talk about, that isn't worthless. That is worth a lot, okay? That's worth quite a bit. People who are higher sexual market value, and I'll tell you both, this is true for males as well as females, tend to be pretty alone a lot, all right? Because they're not able to find a good match, and they're not going to sacrifice their values to be just in a committed thing with somebody who's of lower value or who doesn't have what they want, so to speak, right? So you have a lot of attractive women who are not in relationships, or they don't, or the situation, we'll call it a situationship that they're in, isn't that, she's not that into it. You know what I mean? She's just not. She has maybe, all pretty girls usually have a guy or two or five that they're seeing, but they're not necessarily all in those situations, okay? So it provided that she's single. And a lot of times, unfortunately, even when they're not single, they're not all in too, okay? So personal attention and connection is definitely worth something. And just people don't have the courage or the balls anymore to demonstrate or offer that personalized attention and to put themselves out there, risk rejection to make a real connection with somebody. That takes balls, all right? And people don't have the balls to do that. And when a 10's around, people don't have the balls to do that with a 10. You know, they'll approach a 10 because she's pretty, and it's very artificial and contrived because they're scared because she's hot, and it fucking scares them. All right, it makes them. They put her as a higher point of her opinion becomes of higher value just because of her looks. So that rejection that they risk becomes more severe, right, in their minds. So now they're awkward. I love watching people, and I love watching when a pretty girl is around, how awkward guys will act towards her and how unnatural they'll act. Now to her, that's like normal shit because that's what everybody acts like towards her. But she recognizes a guy who's not acting that way as being somebody definitely different and special. Not just special, but being more dominant, alpha type of a guy, right? Because he's not swayed by her beauty, right? So you might look at a girl and be like, oh my God, she is so fucking hot. Holy shit. Then by the time you're talking to her though, you're mission focused. All right. And that mission is to make that connection. All right. And to get a date and to get a meeting or date or have a connection right there. All right. So that's the mission. You don't care about the obstacles at that point, and you don't care about the value of the target. You see what I'm saying? And so that's how you need to approach. All right. You can say to yourself, fucking damn it. Wow. She is smoking. But then once you actually get into it, you have to get out of your head and you have to focus on what's going on around you with her and focus on her and make a connection. Okay. So if you're not managing your state and if you're in your head, you're going to fail. All right. So you have to work on state management. And those are things that, when I say state, I mean your mental and emotional state. Your mental and emotional state needs to be very confident, dominant, indifferent to the outcome, interested and curious, but basically calm and, you just have to be emotionally and mentally stable and calm when you make an approach on a female, when you deal with a female in any sense, that should be your normal state most of the time. All right. Now there's some, we'll say some bitches out there that will love to, because they're fucked up, they will try to take you off your emotional state all the time. It's probably best to kick them out of your life. You know what I mean? But topic for another video, I guess. So, okay, cool. So we got kind of those basic parameters, right? And what your mindset needs to be like, which is you're not thinking about yourself anymore. Okay, you're not fucking analyzing. You're not self-analyzing when you do this now, okay? All you're doing is paying attention to her, paying attention to what's going on around you, having a good time, having fun with it, and just being you. Just be, okay? And pay attention to her, what's going on. You're looking to make a connection. It's all about connection, all right? Whether you're getting a number, getting a date, making out with her right there, getting rejected, whatever, man, it doesn't matter. It's all about connection, okay? So in order to do that, you observe, okay? You have to observe, be very observant and observing what's going on around you, all right? There's a lot of things I'll observe and notice, and you need to start getting good at that. So what you're going to look for is what we call indicators of interest. Things that indicate that she would be interested in being talked to. Because here's the thing. She has to be open to being connected with. Half the women you're going to run into, doesn't matter whether you are a 10 for them or a 2 for them. They're not going to be in a state of being connected to. You see, they're going to be in their own head, in their phone, in other shit that's going on around them, and they're not in a state to make a connection. So they have to be in a state to make a connection in order for this connection to happen. If you're trying to make a connection with somebody and they're not in that state, they're going to reject you, essentially, and be off-put or potentially annoyed at the interaction, And it could be, and you don't want to internalize the reasons why she's not able to make that connection, all right? Because it has nothing to do with you, generally speaking. It could be that she doesn't like you, but it also could be that she just broke up with somebody. It also could be that she's a pile of anxiety and a wreck, and you don't want to talk to her really anyways, because once you find that out, you'll find out that she's toxic in a relationship maybe. Or it could be that she's, busy and thinking about other stuff, or she's, I don't know, just had a death in the family, having an issue over here or whatever, or she's enjoying her time with her girls and just not thinking about, making a connection with a dude at that moment. Like, there could be any reason, and most of those reasons will have zero to do with you. Okay? The same, and I know this because I've had women interested in me, second and third encounters, okay, where first maybe couple encounters, they showed no IOIs at all. All right, no indicators of interest at all, and then boom, now they're interested. And then why? Well, come to find out, they had this going on, maybe with an ex or this thing, and they weren't open to it. And boom, now they're showing these indicators, meaning that they're open. Were they always attracted to me? Yeah, probably. You know what I mean? I would say so. They probably always found me attractive. That doesn't mean that they're going to be sexually and emotionally open to making that connection. Do you see what I mean? So you're looking for these indicators of interest. There's a lot of things with body language with that, all right? So whether they look at you, how their body reacts to you, that is also the topic for another video. This will be a really long video, okay? But you're looking for her to offer some indicators, this indication that she's interested in you, all right? Now, if she doesn't offer any of those indicators, there's no indicators, okay? Then you want to see if you can create an indicator of interest. You create this is what openers are, all right? An opener creates an indicator of interest. So, and I'll give examples. I'll have examples, all right? Because I know I'm good at concepts, but things I've done in my past, I do so. All right, so I'm at a point with this stuff where I'm unconsciously competent, meaning I can just do it, and I don't think about what I'm doing anymore, all right? So I have to think back to what I actually did to get the results, and I will also look at clients and other people and what they've done based on my advice, and then that tells me, that's how I can give you an example. All right. So I know a lot of times when we talk about pickup, I've talked about it before in these videos. I don't give examples, but that's because I don't even remember half the shit I do. You know what I mean? But I'll have friends or other people around will say, yeah, and then wow, then that happened. They'll give me the rundown and be like, yeah, I guess that's what I did. So that's unconscious competence. This is, by the way, a lot of reasons why a boxing coach, or I'm sorry, a professional boxer isn't always a good coach, because they don't remember all the steps they went through for the last 15 years to get where they're at now. They haven't processed that. They haven't broken it down. At that point, they're unconsciously competent and can get in the ring and fight in a professional fight, but they would have trouble or difficulty coaching somebody how to do the same thing. So a professional fighter, to be a good coach, has to then break down what they've done. That's kind of where I'm at with this kind of stuff. All right, I have to break down what I've done to be successful in order to, coach others, which is what I have done. All right, so anyway, so I'll give examples, but creating indicators of interest with openers. All right, that's now where you say something, do something, and you get a response, and that response can gauge, and then it's an interaction. That response and that interaction can gauge whether or not she is interested and open to making a connection or not. Okay, so I'll use some examples. All right, and I'm going to just say them as examples, and I won't say that they were me. I will say, it could have been me, it could have been a client, could have been somebody else, right? We'll go with that. And keep my private life private, all right? And we'll go with, so I'll say guy and girl, okay? So here's a good one. So guy sees a female, okay? And she's got tattoos, and he notices a tattoo with the scripture on it. It says 2 Corinthians 10. Okay. So she's bartending. All right. So he just says, and he's hanging with other friends, just says to her as she's nearby, 2 Corinthians 10, go. All right. And she kind of looks up, and she had been around, and it wasn't an immediate, she'd been around, and they noticed, she noticed him, but there was really no indicators of interest at that point. He pinpointed something specific that was a tattoo of a scripture, which is potentially something very meaningful, probably, right? So then she recites 2 Corinthians 10, which, by the way, that's a really good scripture. If you're not familiar, you need to go look that one up. It's one of my favorites. All right. So she recites 2 Corinthians 10 for him. And then he says, wow, it sounds like it's pretty meaningful. It sounds like that has a lot of meaning to your life. And she says, yeah, and she starts, yeah, it's very, and he starts to kind of get into it. He goes, yeah, what that's pretty impacting. What is it that would cause you to put that on your wrist like that? How has that impacted your life? And that's all he said. And then when he said it with calm tone of voice, kind of the way like I'm talking to you right now. He just said, that's a pretty meaningful tattoo. How has that impacted your life? And eye contact, just had it right in the eyes. So now what is he doing? He's making a connection. Okay, you get it? And so did he come up to her and say, wow, you're so hot and your eyes are so pretty, your ass is fine, right? Now, is complimenting her body making a connection? Okay, if she's hot and a 10, she knows her fucking body's hot. All right? Does trying to impress her make a connection? No. All right? That's not necessarily, you trying to impress her is not necessarily making a connection. Expressing your desire for her, that's not necessarily making a connection. You see what I mean? To a girl who is a 10, people do this shit to her all day. You're nobody different. All right? You're useless to her when you're doing those things, right? But anyway, so back to that example, she ends up pouring her heart out and telling this whole story about somebody in her life that she knew that, had committed suicide and some of these different things. She just poured her heart out, started crying behind the bar, all right? And as they're talking, he had his hand now was on her wrist as they were talking, and he had looked her in the eye and he was just listening to her. And she opened up to him right there in the bar, okay? And then she started to apologize, and he said, no, it's okay. No, it's a very powerful story. Thank you for telling me. That's all he said. And then he was, walked around the other side later, and she was walking over, and he just grabbed her and gave her a hug like this. All right? And then exchanged names, and and then exchange phone numbers later. All right, but that's pretty much the end of that one. But that's so what. Talk about pickup. What a connection, right? Now, if they, if they go on a date or whatever, is that going to be probably pretty successful for that guy? You know what I mean? If after making that's a pickup, right? That's how you do that shit. Not fucking hey, what you come here a lot? How long you been working here? Whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like that's a connection. All right. Let's see. And she had no IOIs before that. Okay, let's see another one. We'll say guys at the gym. All right. He's getting a shake, and after a workout, and this pretty, we'll say 9-10 is there getting a shake as well. Okay, and so there's some exchanges and small talk and some bullshit. All right, so she's showing IOIs now. Her body's gravitating towards him. She's facing him. Her feet are pointing towards him, and she's engaging him. And he's nagging her a little bit. They're bantering back and forth, and they're having a good time. All right, as they're waiting for their shake. So now that's a different. Like she showed the indicators in the beginning. There was no opener needed. She was open. She was getting a shake, and he was getting one. And he's like, "You're getting the same thing as me." You're like, "Well, what are you?" And then he, whatever. It just kind of like developed into a conversation. She was interested in him, so she was helping him with that conversation. Okay. So then he notices a necklace that said "loved" on, that she was wearing. Now, it's not always about recognizing something that she's wearing or has in her body. Those are just these two examples. I have a couple other ones too. So, notices that. It says, "Are you?" She says, "What? Am I what?" Okay, and this is after some banter and some indicators of interest, right? He goes, "Are you loved?" And he looks her right in the eye, and he says it just like that. And she goes, "What? I don't, what do you, she looked almost like confused. He goes, and he just like smiles. He goes, "Your neck," and he just touches her right here on the chest. He goes, "Your necklace." She goes, oh yeah, and she relaxed a little bit because it really threw her off, And then she told, "Yeah, well, by my mom I am." I went, "Yeah, well, that's good. It's good to be loved by your mom, And then, so that's now getting into an opener, and then from that point, it's just a simple, it's time to go, and he's just like, well, I think we need to continue this conversation next week. Hands the phone over, and she puts her number in. Okay, so that's made this connection with this necklace thing, a little touch there that was welcomed. It wasn't, again, see, this is why you have to pay attention to what's going on. You're not going to go up to some random girl and touch her on the upper chest where her necklace is. You know what I mean? She's going to get a restraining order. All right, but if it's in the context of this connection that you're making, and then you do that, or there's some touch involved, that's something she wants. She'll reciprocate or even do that with you. Okay, so that's another example. So one example was there were no indicators of interest at all, noticed something, and developed a connection right away. The second one was there were indicators of interest all over the place, but because he wasn't nervous, he was in his frame, he wasn't thinking, "God, she's so hot, I hope we don't screw this up," none of that stuff. He was able to banter and have some conversation with her first, and it made it really easy. And then, he kind of noticed something, and he made more of a connection than the banter. The banter's fun, but then it was a connection you can make right away. And sometimes the connection is just humor. Make her laugh. You're both laughing together. That's a good connection too. It doesn't always have to be serious. So there's probably some connection even before that with the banter and the laughing. Another one with we'll give another one with no indicators of interest. Okay, so guys at a little restaurant, and hot waitress, okay, 9 in the looks, all right, maybe 10, okay, we'll say ass a 10, rest of her at 8. I'm just kidding, I don't know, okay, but we'll just say, okay, it's daytime, and she's pouring getting some wine ready for a customer, Now she has not looked at him. There has been nothing. So he has noticed her. and there's been no indicators. She's seen him, been back and forth, waiting on tables, not his table either. So there's nothing there, okay, at this point. So how do you build? She's not open to making like some connection at that point, right? So he sees her pouring the drink. He says, "Well, it looks like someone's day drinking." All right, that's it. That's there. No real open. That's a simple opener. He's just commenting on the world around him that she's a part of. All right. Now, there's a series of things she could have done. She could have just ignored him and just pretend like he didn't say anything and kept going. Then you pretty much know, right? If you're trying to pick up on this person, she's not interested. All right, that's pretty much how that goes. Okay, you're offering opportunities for her to let her know that she's interested. Remember, women want to do that. Their mating strategy is to gather attention, right? And so if they're doing that into the world and getting attention, and she's not looking to get yours, and it's either because she's occupied mentally with something different, which we talked about earlier in the video, or because she's really just not going to be interested in you for whatever reason, which is not a statement about your sexual market value. It's a statement about her. Okay, so you don't internalize it. It just is what it is. So if she's occupied mind somewhere else, which is like half the time or more, okay, you're offering an opportunity for her to give you the indicator of interest and let her know that there's an interest. If she doesn't take that opportunity, then there's no need to go any further. And I don't care how pretty she is. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Okay? And so you'll shoot yourself in the foot if you're going for somebody who is intentionally not giving you any IOIs. All right? At that point, you're just letting her know that she is that much better than you. Your best bet is to just ignore back, okay? And not be dissuaded by it at all. Because then it lets her, most guys who are really interested, they either won't have the courage to do anything, but they'll be kind of butthurt, and you can sort of tell with their body language, or they will they'll try to push something, in either case, now it registers in her hindbrain that she's better than him, and it's nails in the coffin, he's done. All right. If she's not showing IOIs, it's ignore time. All right. Until that happens. And you're not even going to bait for an IOI at that point, because that will make her, if anything is going to work at all with this one, because it may not, right? And a lot of times it won't. But if it's going to work, it's going to work because at that point, she sees that you have a strong frame and you're not swayed by her beauty. So she's now seeing you as better, okay, than she is, or at least than her beauty is. And that might make her curious. If she's a 10, she gets hit on all the time. Or if she doesn't get hit on, it's superficial hitting on, or comments or looks or whatever. If she gets none of that from you because she didn't give you an IOI, she's going to wonder, what's his deal? You know what I mean? And especially if you're a social person and you talk to everybody else, and you just and she is like a piece of furniture at that point. That's going to make her wonder. And then at that point, she may give you an IOI, and an indicator of interest, and then you can engage with more conversation. You see what I'm saying? So that's how that goes, all right? But anyway, just by saying that simple comment, someone's day drinking, all right? All it is commenting on the world around you that the both of you are a part of, all right? And she smiles and goes, just shrugs or whatever. And then he says, you ever do that? And she says, do what? Say fuck the world and just go off day drinking in the middle of the work week as if you don't have a care in the world. And she says something like, I've done it a time or two, sometimes you just got to get away. I'm like, exactly. Sometimes you just got to get away. But see, I don't know. You seem like someone who obeys a lot of rules. It doesn't seem like you're somebody who would go off and break rules, like drinking in the middle of the day like that. So a little neg there he gives her, and then she's like, well, what do you mean? I do things all the time. Like, I'm like, I don't know. You don't seem like that type of girl. He's like, well, you don't know anything about me. Whatever. I'm like, oh yeah? Well, I don't know. I think you might have to prove it. I think I want you to prove it to me. What do you mean? I would prove that I can be adventurous or whatever, Absolutely. I don't believe you've really gone day drinking and had a really reckless time. So I think that you need to do that with me next week. What day is good? So that was the pickup on that one. All right. And then they had a date the next week. Okay. So that went from nothing. Okay. But so what was he looking for? There was a connection there though, right? There was a little banter, a little negging and stuff like that. Like he's messing with her. I don't know if you are adventurous enough, So there's a little messing with her and all that. And that's fun, right? It's not mean-spirited. You know what I mean? It's humorous, it's fun, and she's messing with him back, and so then it ends up into a date. So that messing with each other, that banter, that's a connection too, because that's, you don't banter with someone you hate. You don't, you're bantering with a person that you're interested in and you like, you know what I'm saying? And so that created that a little bit out of nothing, But then when he said, have you ever done that? And he put her in a frame of mind of doing something recreational and fun in her past. You see, so now her frame of mind went from, I'm working at this shitty restaurant thing right now and I don't like it, into imagining herself out and doing something more fun. You see, so he takes that frame of mind and moves it there, and that's a connection that gets developed right from that. And so from that connection now, there's an interest. From that interest, there's, let's do it next week. Okay, I'm off Wednesday. I'll make sure I make some time, and then boom, they're on a date, or whatever happens next. So I'll do one more example, okay, because I think these examples are useful. If you like them, this is going to be on my YouTube channel, so make sure you like the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe is most important. And you like the video, okay? Because there's a lot of people ask me to do these videos. They take the information, they're excited about it. It's like they don't want everybody to know they're getting this information from the internet, so they don't support the channel. And that's not going to work for me, because in order for me to keep doing this, I need that support. So share this, like it when you get it on YouTube. All right, I appreciate it. But back to, we'll say last example. So guys sitting, I use a lot of, there's other ones. You're not always at some bar, but these are just the most recent ones in my mind that I can think of, okay? So guys, this one's a more aggressive example, all right? And so guys like leaning in and hitting on some girl, all right? And so that's going on. He's hanging out with his friends, male, female friends, and just talking, and he's noticing that there's this pretty girl, we'll say she's like an 8 or 9, okay? Sitting there, and he's got a guy leaning into her and talking to her, do you know what I mean? And kind of hovering. And she's body language is like this. She's kind of back like that, all right? So he notices that, okay? So this is what I mean about observation, okay? You notice the world around you. If you're in your head and thinking about all the shit you need to say and do, and you're nervous, you're not observing the world around you, and you're not going to act and behave in a natural manner, all right? So this is where confidence, you have to have confidence to get out of your head, all right, and just observe the world, all right? So he notices that going on, and it doesn't change the course of his evening. He's having fun with his friends. But then this guy kind of moves, and he moves around, and he's been hovering around these two chicks for a while, and now he's over talking to the other one, you know what I mean? He'd like bought him drinks, and like there's a whole lot of things going on. So this guy just gets up, the guy who's gonna do the pickup, gets up and sits down right next to her really close. And so he's sitting like sideways, like this, and he just kind of looks at her and he goes, kind of gestures like this. So she kind of leans into him, all right? So he sits down, and this is nothing. All right, she'd given no IOIs whatsoever. All right, she leans kind of into him, and then he goes, "You see what you did there?" And she's like, "What I do? Like, we see how you're sitting close to me and you're leaning into me right now, because you're part of it because you want to hear what I have to say. But you see how you're doing that right now? Do you notice the difference?" She goes, "What difference between what?" I went, "Well, when the other dude was talking to you, you were going the other way, and he was leaning into you and trying to get into your face, and you were backed up. I go, do you notice how you're doing the opposite of that with me right now?" And now he's closer, and as he's talking to her, he's got his hands on her, everything, because she just gravitated towards him practically into his lap. All right. And then he's talking to her like that, and he goes, see, the reason I'm trying to think, what did he end up saying? He goes, so he's like, she goes, oh yeah. She goes, I go, see, oh yeah. He goes, see, because you're definitely, anyone could tell if they were watching you that you were not interested in him, because you wouldn't let him be this close to you like we are right now. And she just kind of laughs, and you wouldn't let him do this either. And he just kind of pulled her head toward like a little bit and just started kissing the back of her ear and the back of her neck. All right. And of course she was letting him. All right. And then she says something, well, he's a nice guy. And I'm like, yeah, he seems like a very nice guy, but you're not going to fuck him. Okay. And then that was that. And then we'll just leave the rest of the night for your imagination. But anyway, so these are 4 examples of approaches. Now, these approaches do not change whether it's a 3 or a 10. Okay. And in each case, what happened? Indicators of interest, but what happened was a connection. Okay. So even in the last example, which is more of an aggressive example, he could have sat down next to her and she could have went and leaned away from him, okay? Which would have been an entirely different outcome then. You know what I mean? He might have just said anything at that point. Like he could have said, are you okay? And then explain the observation. It could have been funny, banter, or whatever. She could have just looked at him like he's a dick, and he walks and he goes, okay, whatever, sorry, whatever, and walks away. I mean, it could have been a variety of ways that could have turned out, but because as soon as he sat down with her and he went like this, she leaned and pushed herself towards him, which was the opposite of what she had done with that previous guy that was clearly hitting on her. That was high indicators of interest, and he was able to just move that right along. You see what I mean? And so it's not about being manipulative. It's not about like people hear this kind of stuff and they'll be like, man, he is like Lucifer, this guy. Like, how is he, he is just out there, like he can manipulate people. No, it's not manipulation, okay? There's persuasion, a little bit, persuasiveness, but it's not manipulation. It's not even really persuasion so much, okay? All you're doing is making a connection, all right? So what's the point of going on a date with somebody? What's the point of meeting somebody, approaching somebody? You're making a connection, and you're trying to see if this person is the kind of person that you want to be connected with. In which ways, right? In dating, potentially, maybe later on a long-term relationship, right? So how do you find that out? What, do you go on the internet and, fucking signal on Facebook and like a chick's post a bunch? Or do you go on Match.com and hope an algorithm turns you out somebody that you like? I mean, that's not making connections. And in this day and age, okay, with everything is depersonalized and people have attachment problems, people have connection problems, all right? And they don't make connections with each other. And in these instances, this may not result in you sleeping with everybody, okay? It's not going to. But what it will result in is meeting people and having a good time and making connections with people, all right? When you're wherever you're at. It could be at the grocery store, it could be at the restaurants, it could be at the bars, it could be in a parking lot, it could be whatever, And it's all about connecting, all right? So if you're making these connections, this is not a sinister thing to have happen. And this is a very alpha thing to do, by the way. Why? Because alpha is not just physical dominance. It's also being able to influence the social environment around yourself. If you can't connect with people, how are you supposed to have that influence socially, right? And so that's what it's all about. And back to the original, it doesn't matter if she is a 10 or a 2, all right? She is still a woman, and she is going to respond in similar ways, all right? Now, she may guard herself differently when she's a 10. She may shit test differently. She may vet out. She's going to be more selective in how she vets because she has a lot of options. But if you make a connection, then it won't make a difference. Do you understand? Because people don't have the courage to make connections with 10s and 9s. They don't, right? And so that is how you do it. Oh, one last thing too. We'll talk about getting blown out. Okay, getting blown out is where you get rejected and there's like no fucking way. All right. That happens. No big deal. Okay. Should happen to you a lot if you're trying to get yourself out there. It's probably happened to you at least half the time. Doesn't matter how good you are, and that's okay. All right. The better you are at getting these indicators of interest and figuring that out, the less you'll get rejected. But it's better to not fear rejection and go through the process of that so you don't fear it than it is to avoid it. All right. So don't worry about avoiding rejection. Just worry about noticing the environment around yourself. You won't, if she's not interested and you know it, you should never get to asking for a date or a phone number and have her reject you. You know what I mean? You should never get to that point because you're noticing she's not interested. So you're not going to continue to waste your time, right? So, you should notice things, whether she's a time waster, whether she's, and if you're not offering anything else other than, attention and conversation and connection, meaning like you're not going to connect with her because you bought her a drink or did something for her or a favor. That's very beta, okay, to do that. Even in the chimpanzee world, that's beta, right? Where weaker males will offer provisions for sex with a female. The alphas never do that, okay, for a reason. So you're looking for a connection. You're not offering or bribing her, all right, for sex. It's important. But we'll talk about now, like getting blown out. So here's the thing with that 10. So do you risk getting blown out with a 10, right? She's like, man, this girl is so hot, I don't want to fuck it up. That's what I run into a lot in that question. Okay, I get it. Here's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you going to run into her again? Or is it a situation where it's a one-time event? So if you're out someplace and she's in a, parking lot or grocery store, that's potentially a one-time event, right? There's, thousands of people in your city. You might never run into her again. So at that point, you just risk getting blown out, and you make that approach, and you work and hope you make the connection, and you don't get rejected. But if you do, who cares? You got rejected by a 10. It was worth a try, right? So that's the thing. Now, it may be a thing, though, where you're going to see this person again. Do they work at a place that you frequent? That's the thing. Do they work with you? Not that I recommend, dipping your pen in the company ink, so to speak, but you know what I mean? You at a gym and you've seen this person multiple times. Are you at a place where were you gonna run into them again, like for sure, for certain? If you are in that place and you're not getting the IOIs, then drop it. You know what I'm saying? You might not even approach to say anything or do an opener at that point. Let her see you a couple times and ignore her, right? I mean, she's not better than you, right? So you're better than she is. So don't give her a bunch of unearned attention and stuff. You know what I mean? But if you're not getting IOIs at that moment, you don't need to get blown out right away. You might allow it to be a couple of interactions before. But the key is, again, if she's not giving you IOIs and she's not earning your attention, so you put your attention elsewhere, you don't necessarily need to do the opener. But as she sees you more often, and maybe when her mind's in a different state, so let's say she's busy and stressed about something and she sees you and it's at the gym or whatever, right? And she's clearly not giving any IOIs, but you've seen her before, you'll see her again. Okay, well then you just let it go. All right, but then she's in peak ovulation where sexual hormones are the highest, and she's not stressed, and she sees you. And then she gives you some IOIs, and that's like 2 weeks later. And now you do an approach, and you make the date and all that. You see how that can work? So be patient. You don't necessarily need to get blown out if you know that you're going to see them again. All right? But if you're probably not going to see them again, then who cares? Just take the risk. All right, so that is a long video with a lot of stuff in there and a lot of things of value. I hope that the gentleman, I won't mention names, who asked for this likes it, and I hope that a lot of you guys like it too. All right, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. Oh yeah, and hit me up for coaching if you need more help. Subscribe to my YouTube channel.